back to Resilience. I'm John Biggs. Today we have Yang Li. He's the co-founder and chief operating officer of Cosine, which is a sovereign AI platform based out of the UK. Welcome, Yang.
Thanks for having me, John.
Yeah. So tell us about Cosine. Sovereign AI has been all the rage right now. So I think this is a big deal, right?
Yeah, hugely. I think sovereign is hard to define as a term, but I think if you drill down to the crux of it, most of our customers care about control, certainty, and resilience in our AI stack. And what Cosine is that we are a model lab. We pre-train and post-train our own foundational models, and we produce the product layer as well, similar to Claude Code and OpenAI Codex. But fundamentally, we can deploy it in a fully air-gapped environment. So a lot of our customers work in high compliance industries or in areas where, such as defense, where there are top secret things they want to keep sort of air gapped. And currently there is very few solutions if you want to have a fully air gapped AI solution, and we provide that.
So the idea of the air gapped AI, I mean, it seems obvious, right? But are there any issues about, I don't know, updated training? One would assume that I don't know, all the non-sovereign folks are constantly scouring the web for updated information, et cetera. And you guys presumably might be outdated to a degree, right? Or is that even a concern?
Yeah, so I think that we definitely don't update as frequently as someone who's part of a cloud solution, right? So, I think people always feel like if you're using ChatGPT or Claude Code, that from week to week and month to month, the model feels very different, but that's actually just behind the scenes that they're always incrementally updating it, whether it's for better or worse. What we do is that we serve our customers through a license agreement, and so we agree ahead of time in terms of what cadence they would like it to be updated, and in what way and shape or form. For example, we can do weekly updates if our customers would like to, but of course they have to deploy it onto their infrastructure. So a lot of companies don't want it that frequent. Usually what we do is that we match the same frequency as all of the other pieces of software that they already use, whether it's, like as a to-do list or some sort of Kanban board, or whether internal communications, whatever frequency they have already, we can meet that. I also think that what we do uniquely is that we give our customers the same set of tooling that we have in order to train the models to use to incrementally update as they go along. So they are allowed and they are encouraged to post-train, to customize the model incrementally as they've used our products and models with their internal talent as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I'm thinking about is like the model doesn't need to know that Sam Neill is dead, but it should know that Lindsey Graham is dead, right? Is that a use case that's important, or is this entirely different, or is this focused primarily on coding and software design?
So we started and focused on coding, but I think this is not a controversial view, right? Claude Code, fundamentally, their models are orientated to be very good at coding, and that everything else kind of trickles down from there. And our models are built in the same way. We take the belief that if you are good at solving coding problems, then the tool calling, the behavior, the logic, right, it applies to lots of industries. So it has a trickle-down effect. It is very good at research. It's very good at doing, Excel manipulation. It is good at doing customer service workflows, because fundamentally it's solving the problem by either designing or tool calling on a variety of different tools. So yeah, we started off as focused on primarily coding, and actually double clicking on that, we are always been very focused, and in fact we are still in some certain legacy coding languages we're twice as good as the frontier models, such as COBOL, Fortran, Ada, to a certain extent even .NET.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. I was just talking to a person who was thinking about starting a COBOL coding house because nobody can do it anymore.
Yeah, we spoke to a defense company where they have quite a few vehicles grounded at the moment because they're waiting for one person to update the avionics, and it's written all in Fortran. And it's not for anyone's fault, but there's just not many people competent in Fortran anymore.
Sure. Well, maybe the AI can do it for us. So you guys have been doing this for about 3 years. How has it been? It sounds like 3 years ago you could probably code fairly well with it, but at this point it's probably just jumped leaps and bounds, right?
I think I thought about this recently with my co-founder actually, and I think
4 years actually, it looks like, right?
Yeah, no, we did started like in I guess the end of November, October-ish in 2022. I think when my co-founder took a step back, when we were having a beer, we actually came to realize that the world was enthusiastic about coding with AI for about the last 3 years. But in reality, it only hit big time and real competency within the last 12 months. Claude Code and OpenAI Codex now seems like such a big part of the fabric of consciousness, and it feels like it was always there. But rewind 12 months ago, it really was not a big tool, and no one really believed in that this was so transformational, and let alone economically viable to use AI for coding. And so, yeah, I think our journey follows a very similar path, right? We really started, in earnest 3 years ago. We spent the first 2 years doing lots of R&D, and we launched, I believe, 6 or 7 months before ChatGPT was a product.
Hmm.
So GPT-3 became out as a model. We started building initially AI-enabled coding tools, and we started building, I guess, slight automations before agents were a terminology coined and accepted by everyone. We're building some variant of agents, and we were training models at first post training only, and then moving on to mid training. So actually changing the weights of a model, and then finally pre training. We spent the first 2 years doing a lot of R&D and figuring out how do you piece together both how do you build models, but also how do you build the scaffold and the harness around the product. And actually, it is a combination of the two that makes it effective. So in the last 12 months, we've seen really fantastic traction. We're now officially backed by the UK government, Sovereign AI Fund. We are, working with a bunch of partners, whether it's BAE, Babcock, Leonardo, PwC, Thales, and a lot of other players also in financial services industries as well, which has been obviously fantastic for us.
Is there any? Is the expectation in the future to be that sovereign AI folks like yourself are going to? It's going to be one in every country, right? One would assume that OpenAI isn't going to dump their own sovereign solution into the UK because that wouldn't be sovereign to a degree. Is that the expectation? Do you think that's a viable business model?
Yeah, I think it is definitely, there's two sides of it, right? There's the sovereignty side of it, and then I guess there's the certainty side of it for private sector companies. The sovereignty side, post our announcement, so during London Tech Week at the Rachel Reeves event, it was announced this coalition of partners. At that time, I think we had 15. I think today we have 20 publicly traded companies that are part of our coalition to help build the next model with us. A large part of it was every countries then reaching out to us. So we've got inbound interest from many countries from the GCC, whether it's UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, but also we're making some inroads inside Australia and Sweden. So I think there is definitely demand in trying to replicate our solution in other countries and calling it sovereign from the ground up from those
Hmm.
countries. On the flip side, on the sort of private sector, a lot of other companies now, we're now having a lot of inbound interest from Germany and France, and actually some American companies as well, who just want certainty over their own destiny, right? So I think there's a couple of things that have shifted in the market that hasn't really played into our favor. Number one, I think it's very self-evident, the Trump administration doing the export ban on Anthropic models and then asking them to OpenAI to slow down the rollout of the latest 5.6 has really sort of accelerated the hypothetical risk of AI sort of access could be shut down has now become reality, and there's precedents, not only one but two. And also, I think last week Reuters and Bloomberg reported that the Chinese government has now asked, or is discussing with all Chinese LLM providers, to also limit access on frontier models on open source basis, right? So I think that's moved into a reality. I think the second one is also increasingly people are realizing that their most valuable asset is their data and their customer workflows. And the idea of, I know Anthropic and OpenAI have policies where they don't train on customer data, but even knowing how a customer is using that your LLMs, so that you can generate or buy or label or generate more data to train your models to be specifically better at those workflows, is a dangerous game that a lot of large companies, particularly the global GSIs, the global systems integrators, are very fearful of.
Okay. What's next for the company? What's next for Cosine?
So we're currently training our largest model yet, which is a 1.35 trillion parameter mixture of express model. Really, to cut to the chase, what that means is that we're going to deploy a model that is as competent as the best of the Chinese open source models. Fully sovereign in the UK, able to deploy the full product and model in an air-gapped environment. And also these coalition partners that we're working with, they get to feed into specifically what data goes in and what types of behavior comes out on the other end as well. So partners like HSBC, they get to have a model that is actually based on their requirements and their needs, and then BAE also gets their assurance by design as they request it as well.
Very cool. In terms of raises, you're basically using those financial partners to build out the next models, or are you raising actively?
Yeah, so we are actively raising. I think that to be very blunt here, we have been quite opportunistic. We have been receiving some preemptive offers from a lot of tier one funds. I think for us, it's like it's very much we're not close to we still have a lot of runway, so we're in no rush. But about finding who the next best strategic partner is important to us. But we are actively raising.
All right, perfect. Well, Yang, thank you for joining us. It's been really cool, and we'll keep our eye on Cosine.
No, thanks for having me, John.
All
Enjoy the
right,
rest of your day.
all right. Thanks.